Good morning, everyone. This is Julie McDonald with Microcom Technologies, and I would like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with MetaGeek. Today's host is Casey Cathy. He is their customer experience specialist, and he'll be presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question box, and I will ask Casey at the end of the presentation, and he'll answer them. Casey, I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Alrighty, awesome. Thank you, Julie. So today we're going to be talking about our Channelizer plus YSpy product, and I'll go over the agenda here. So first I'm going to introduce myself, kind of talk about MetaGeek a little bit, and then I'm going to go over some Wi-Fi fundamentals, since it's kind of important to understand some basic concepts about Wi-Fi in order to use our tools. It's just kind of something that really helps. Then we're going to go over some Channelizer features specifically. I'll go ahead and demo a couple things with the software, and then open up the floor for some questions if you guys have any. So about myself, my name is Casey. I'm the CX specialist here, so that's the customer experience. Basically, that just means if you send a support ticket in, I'll most likely be the person to reply and respond. So a really direct way to get a hold of me is just to email me at support@metageek.com. That's probably the quickest, most direct way to get to me. I have a CWNA and a CWSP. Those are certifications given out by a company called CWNP, which stands for Certified Wireless Network Professionals, which I highly recommend checking out if you want to further your knowledge on Wi-Fi. They're pretty great certs. I work for a company called MetaGeek, and we're located in downtown Boise, Idaho. This picture in the bottom right is actually a view from our office. It's a couple years old now. There's actually a lot more buildings now here, and a little bit more development. It's growing very quickly, but we definitely love it here. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about, and this is one of the most important aspects, is that Wi-Fi is half duplex. So what this means is that only one Wi-Fi device can talk on a channel at a time. So if you think about it, like an Ethernet cable, for instance, if you look at an Ethernet cable, basically it's two copper coils, kind of coiled together here. And what this allows is it allows traffic to go in both directions at the same time, and that's pretty great, and that's what's great about hardwiring, if you can, is that devices can talk a lot more quickly and at the same time. What Wi-Fi, on the other hand, is just one direction. So basically, here's like a client device. It has to send some information over, and the access point has to say, check, I understand that, and then it sends the data that it wants to send, and then the laptop will acknowledge that. So a good way to kind of think about this is like a conversation between two friends. Basically, you can't both talk at the same time, or they can't just speak and listen at the same time. One has to talk, listen, and then reply, and then the other friend listens. So that's kind of a good way to kind of think about it. So with that said, this is kind of a really interesting thing about Wi-Fi. Only one device can actually talk at a time. So here's like a Nexus device. It looks like basically it sends it sends a request to have some data. The access point acknowledges that request, sends it some more data. Meanwhile, all these other devices on the channel have to wait their turn and wait for that conversation to be over. And you have to remember, this happens thousands of times a second here. And once this device is done with its conversation with the router, then now it's this device's turn. And I won't get into some of the specifics here, but it's pretty miraculous that Wi-Fi works at all. And you can kind of start to see how the more devices you have on a network, how it can kind of get tricky, how you might get kicked off the network if there's too many devices. So that's why it's really important to make sure you have enough access points and access points that can handle enough clients. So I'll go ahead and talk about the two spectrums that we work with in Wi-Fi, the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum and the 5 gigahertz spectrum. So the 2.4 gigahertz obviously has a way greater range. Pretty much every device is compatible with this spectrum, and as a result, it's usually the most congested. And also a lot of non-Wi-Fi devices operate in the 2.4 gigahertz range as well, like baby monitors and cordless phones, which I'll show you later on in the presentation. And there's only 3 non-overlapping channels in the 2.4 gigahertz range, and I'll go ahead and explain that in the next slide here. Meanwhile, the 5 gigahertz spectrum has a lower indoor range. You start to see it about 90 feet is about the maximum range indoors. It doesn't attenuate as easily, which means it can't pass through walls as well as the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum can. And if you see AN or AC, that means your device is capable of connecting to this spectrum. And there's a lot more space down here. There's 24 non-overlapping channels. So I always recommend customers use the 5 gigahertz when possible. In terms of the 2.4 gigahertz channel, going back to that, this is actually only 16 megahertz wide right here. And so that just means, if you do the basic math, with each channel being 20 megahertz wide, there's really only 3 possible options that don't overlap. And I'll go over why it's important to not use overlapping channels, but that's 1, 6, and 11. That's why here at MetaGeek, we always recommend using just one of those 3 channels in the 2.4 gigahertz. If everyone used 1, 6, and 11, things would work a lot more smoothly. It's once you start getting to this, we call it adjacent channel interference is a real problem. If you can, it's good to have co-channel interference, because that just means that all the devices have to take turns to talk. Whereas if you have some devices on a channel 4, for instance, and some devices on channel 6 and some devices on channel 5, they aren't polite. They don't take turns to talk, and sometimes that cancels each other out, and you're going to have a lot more issues. It's like like this is like having a conversation with multiple friends, and they're all understanding each other and waiting, politely, kind of like at a dinner table. Whereas adjacent channel interference is, if there were like 3 tables in the same room and they're all talking at the same time, and pretty soon everyone has to start talking more loudly. And so you want to avoid adjacent channel interference if you can. And that's why we always recommend, 1, 6, and 11. And so detecting this sort of interference, this is where Channelizer comes in. It will use the Wi-Fi adapter in your computer to scan all the networks that are out there and show what channels those APs are using. And then if you plug in a Wi-Spy, you can actually get that spectrum analysis and see the RF, the radio frequencies, and kind of see the invisible and the congestion. It also allows you to see non-Wi-Fi devices. And so these are kind of, we consider Channelizer the deep dive into spectrum analysis. That's its specialty. And so, with the Wi-Spy and we call it the device finder antenna, you can actually locate those sources of interference. Here's kind of a little GIF showing how the device finder plugs into the Wi-Spy. It's just a directional antenna, and then once you you unscrew the omnidirectional antenna, plug in the directional antenna, and then you can start to actually locate, where the interference is coming from, whether it's a baby monitor, things like that. And I'll kind of show you some examples here of what a baby monitor looks like in Channelizer. So, right here you can see it frequency hops. So at one point, this baby monitor looks like it started out on channel 5 here, switched over to channel 9, looks like for about 5 minutes, and then it went over to channel 1. This is extremely frustrating for anyone deploying Wi-Fi. If you would maybe switch your network over to channel 1 once you saw that this was on over here on channel 11 or channel 6 or something, and then boom, it switches over and will just cause havoc to your Wi-Fi, because these sort of devices aren't polite. It's just constantly talking, so your Wi-Fi device thinks it's a Wi-Fi device and waits its turn to talk. Another good example here is Bluetooth. You really have to have a lot of Bluetooth to see a signature like this. We're talking like hundreds of devices all really compactly close to each other. So if you have an environment like that, it can, interfere with your Wi-Fi. Just kind of fun to see what it actually does look like, blue teeth almost, but that's just coincidental, really. And then here's what an analog wireless video camera looks like. And this is just absurd how much this is using the channel here. And a lot of people will still use these, and this just would obviously wreak havoc with your Wi-Fi. You'd need to guarantee that your network is over here or somewhere where that's not being used. And kind of the reason why this is important to understand, as I was talking about earlier, even microwaves, for instance, that operate in the 2.4 gigahertz range, these client devices think that this is a Wi-Fi device. And so they all wait their turn to talk to the access point, which, is kind of amusing, because this is going to go for as long as it's going. Let's say you're, a burrito for 2 minutes or whatever. Nothing else is going to operate if that microwave is operating on the same channel. So it's really important to be able to kind of find these things, see these things, and diagnose them. And Channelizer can also, rewind your spectrum data, fast forward, and kind of, help you troubleshoot. So it's a lot like a DVR. And another great feature is the report builder. So once you kind of find your interference, or you kind of find the problem, you can actually throw that into a report, and it makes you look very professional. And you can, hand this over to the customer or the client, kind of show them, what's going on. And then finally, if you deploy Cisco APs, we do have a Cisco Clean Air accessory that allows you to remotely log in and look at the spectrum, and it's really high quality. It uses the spectrum capabilities in that Cisco AP, so it's really good, and it also allows you to not be at the environment, because you can actually remote log in if you just have the IP address and NSI key of the Clean Air accessory. So I'll go ahead and demo Channelizer for you guys. Get my my VM up and running. So first thing you should know is if you open up Channelizer without a Wi-Fi attached, it'll kind of come up to like a trial screen. And I think it's really important to try this software out. If you just even Google Channelizer trial, it should kind of pop up like this. You have some lessons you can look at and some recordings, things like that. But I'm going to go ahead and plug in a Wi-Fi here. Let's see if we can get some spectrum. Oh, let's see here. Okay, we'll try that again here. Of course, it's not like in my Wi-Fi DBX, it looks like. I'll have to get this checked out. But one thing I kind of wanted to show you guys is a couple recordings, at least, kind of show you guys what a, kind of a good use case for these sorts of things. And I think a really great one is a cordless phone interference here that we have. So this would kind of be what you'd expect to see here. If you were to open up Channelizer with the Wi-Fi here. I'll have to get this figured out on my ends. But as you can see, this kind of starts recording immediately. It starts looking at the spectrum. You can, of course, check out some different views. Right now, I'm looking at the frequencies. I want to look at the Wi-Fi channels. So I'm going to come here to view and go to Wi-Fi channels. And I'm just going to kind of look at the spectrum here. And if I were diagnosing the MetaGeek network, I'd place a check mark here, and then I can see my MetaGeek APs and their signal strength and things like that. And you can kind of see here on the left-hand side, I was talking about the DVR. You can see that there's something coming up here, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of fast forward here to that point, and you can kind of see what it looks like when something like a cordless phone is introduced to the environment. So I'm going to go ahead and click play. And here's a network I have on channel 5 here, it looks like at this point in time. And as you can see, this cordless phone signature starts to appear. And at first it looks like it's not that bad, but it really starts to kind of get deeper in color. And it's important to know that kind of what the colors mean here in Channelizer. So blue, as you can kind of see, that just means that less than 10% of the spectrum is being utilized. So blue is pretty great to see. Green is 20 to 30. Orange and red is more than 50% of the spectrum is being utilized at this point. And deep red is even more so. And so as you can see, there's this deep red signature coming, and you might not really know what this is at first. So one great thing that Channelizer has to offer is we do have this interferers tab where you can actually kind of hover over, click on a signature and kind of hover over and see if it matches. So okay, I know this is an 802.11 technology because it's not 20 megahertz wide and it doesn't look anything like this. So I know it's not going to be any sort of 802.11 thing. You can put a sound bar, and it looks pretty similar to a sound bar. What this one ended up being was a cordless phone, and so you can actually just kind of place that over and identify this source of interference. In this case, it is a cordless phone, and you can kind of troubleshoot that, and again, seeing your network here, if you had any sort of devices on this MetaGeek GN network, it would completely get kicked off at this point, and this is almost as good as a jammer. Another really common problem out there is too much Zigbee interference. I'm going to show you a recording here of some Zigbee interference. And this is kind of a popular technology in a lot of the custom home integration segments. A lot of smart homes will use this for like the wireless lighting, wireless remotes, wireless cameras, things like that. And we actually have, if you go to view, you can actually switch to Zigbee channels, and you can actually see these Zigbee line up with Zigbee channels, which they use 11 through 26 as opposed to Wi-Fi 1 through 11. And so we also have a signature here for Zigbee that you can drag up and compare and confirm that it is indeed Zigbee. But this would absolutely just wipe out a network if you had some networks here. And so it's pretty important to to be able to diagnose these things. And of course, I was kind of talking about the report builder accessory. So one great thing here is, if you do want to hand this to a client, it's pretty easy to add, here's the density graph, and we automatically kind of give you this information, blue less than 10%, green, and you can, hand this to your client. If you had some networks, I don't think there were any networks present, thankfully. They probably were all kicked off. The beacons were probably too invisible because this spectrum is completely saturated here. But if you did have some networks, you could of course add the networks graph, and we kind of explained some basic things, what signal strengths and things like that. So yeah, pretty neat, pretty professional, pretty important to be able to kind of visually prove that to your customer. And another thing I was kind of wanting to show you guys is the Clean Air accessory. So if you do have Cisco Clean Airs, all you go is Clean Air and then connect to a Clean Air IP. All you need here is the IP address and the NSI key, and you can actually remote log into a Cisco IP, which is pretty handy if you need to remote log in. So I think that's about all I have. I was cut a little short. I need to get this Wi-Fi DBX figured out here, but I did want to open up the floor and see if anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you very much, Casey, for your presentation. We enjoyed it, and it looks like I do have some questions for you.
Oh, perfect.
Let me go ahead and read the first one off to you. Let's see. Question here is Medicare included with all MetaGeek devices?
Yeah, so if you purchase Channelizer or IPA, Medicare is automatically, you get 1 year automatically with the purchase of those pieces of software. Hardware is we basically will replace hardware. We have like a 30-day return policy. We kind of extend that to 45 days. We'll work with you if it's something on our end there. And if you are on Medicare too with Channelizer IPA, that comes with with the purchase. 1 year does.
Excellent. If someone needs it or still wants it after 1 year, is it available to purchase a further time frame to have that coverage?
Of course, yeah. Actually, we have it's $100 per year. So if you want to extend it on a year after that, it'd just be $100.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next question here is, if customers need more assistance with the Channelizer, could they contact your support team directly?
Oh, of course. Yep, and that would most likely be me too. So our support, what I would do is we do have a phone number here, which I can give out. And maybe I'll put it right here. I think we have a little questions or a little section that I can add. I can chat here and put our number here. It's 208-639-3140. And then if you just dial extension 120, you'll actually hit me direct. And that's a good way to get direct support. And right now we do offer, pretty much free support, consulting, things like that. At this point, we don't charge extra for that. If you're a purchasing customer, that's, or you buy from Microcom, then we're happy to support that and help you out.
Excellent. Thank you. That's good to know. Can you give us an overview of how your MetaGeek products compare to your competitors?
Yeah, so I think the space that we like to exist on is more of an affordable space. A lot of spectrum analyzers out there that are the more industrial, kind of like the Fluke AirCheck, for instance. Those retail for about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. They get pretty expensive. Whereas the Y-Spy DBX retails for $500, and the software can be anywhere from on top of that $140 for Insider to Channelizer's $500. So anywhere from $5,000 to $1,000 you can get a full spectrum analyzer from MetaGeek. The Fluke AirCheck might have a little bit more quality in terms of actual spectrum kind of sweep rate and things like that. But for all intents and purposes, the Y-Spy can pretty much capture anything that you need, anything that's important to capture. The Y-Spy can absolutely capture, the real offenders in Wi-Fi. You really wouldn't need a super fine grained spectrum analyzer for certain things, unless you're like a, really high expert, and you're doing like radio, testing or engineering, things like that. So we kind of exist in that space that's we're that affordable space, so to speak. And so, the competitors are usually a little more priced out, I would say. So we try to make it a little bit more affordable.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, we've got a tech person on the line or as an audience member, and he's with our company, and he would like to know if he would like to test your products. Can we get a demo or a licensed version, or can he check out the testing online like you mentioned? Is there something he could Google, or how would we go about doing that?
Oh yeah, I mean either or. We do have trials available on all of our software, so you can even just Google Channelizer trial or Insider Office trial or IPA trial. Those are the three pieces of software we sell here. Or if you need an extended demo, please feel free to reach me just at support@metageek.com. I'd be happy to help give you an extended trial and help you guys out with whatever you need for sure.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next question here is regarding the Air PCAP NX product.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I believe it's at the end of life, and it's been requested pretty frequently. And so I guess we're wondering, is MetaGeek, do they have any plans on making a similar unit?
Oh, absolutely. So, the Air PCAP was discontinued almost probably 6 months ago now, or quite a while ago now, when we had our final kind of notification of that. So what we ended up doing is we ended up developing our own drivers for packet capture. And so you can actually use a few standard adapter models right now. So you no longer need to purchase an Air PCAP to natively capture packets in IPA. The model that we currently support, it's the Linksys AC1200. I can't remember the exact model number off the top of my head, but it's 802.11ac. As of today, we actually released 802.11ac packet capture within IPA. If you have this, there's actually a full list of adapters. If you go to our knowledge base, the MetaGeek knowledge base, you can actually find an article that says, what packet capture sources can I use? And we've updated that to show that full list. A lot of those adapters you can grab on Amazon right now, or through Microcom. Eventually, hopefully, pretty soon we'll get you guys a good inventory of adapters, but they are publicly available, and you no longer need to rely on the AirPCAP NX for packet capture. One thing too is the AirPCAP was 802.11n only. So these new adapters are actually 802.11ac compatible, and so you can actually perform packet capture just with these standard adapters. We don't manufacture the adapters. Like I said, it's like ASUS and Linksys and Edimax and all these various vendors make them, but we just install drivers over these adapters that allow you to capture packets from within our software.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Does MetaGeek host a community forum that one could, join and get on and discuss any products or any, particular situations, and maybe people looking for, solutions online?
Sure. We do have a forum out there. I think you can find it just by going, I think it's just forum.metageek.com. You might want to Google that just in case I got that wrong, but we haven't really kept it up to date. We do have, we do have a couple moderators that keep it up to date. I think the best thing, commenting on our knowledge base, we have a pretty good support.metageek.com environment where we kind of have, articles and people can comment. And we're always open to kind of creating more articles on things that people need there. It's really easy to create articles there. Other than that, I think Twitter would be a good place to kind of start a community. There's a huge Wi-Fi community on Twitter. If you go to my Twitter profile, which is Kathy_Fi, or follow @MetaGeek. There's a lot of Wi-Fi guys out there on Twitter, so that's a pretty good spot. So again, to kind of recap, we do have a forum out there. It's a little bit outdated. It's not used a lot, but I think the better places to go would be either support.metageek.com or just reach out to us on Twitter and kind of start a conversation there.
Excellent. Thank you, Casey. That's very informational. I believe that's exactly what we were looking for. Thank you so much for answering all of those questions, and thank you to everyone for attending today. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact your sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. If you wish to view any of the products mentioned or shown today, please visit us at www.microcom.us. And please remember, this webinar presentation has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so you can view it again. Thank you, Casey. Appreciate your time, your presentation. All of your information was excellent. We enjoyed it very much. And everybody have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
All right.